Zara always believed that betrayal had a certain look. Lipstick stains, secret calls, awkward silences, the kind of things people warn you about. So when her husband Ayan started coming home late, smiling at his phone and drifting away during conversations, she wasn't entirely surprised. Deep down, she had already felt the distance growing between them like an invisible wall. They lived in a beautiful high-rise apartment in the heart of the city, surrounded by ambition, glass towers, and fast lives. But inside their home, something had quietly started to fall apart. Zara was not the kind of woman who ignored details. She was sharp, independent, and built her own identity through her fashion consultancy. She noticed the changes, the unfamiliar perfume, the late-night messages, the way Ayan would suddenly step out to take calls. And then one night, everything confirmed what she already suspected. A message popped up on his phone. "Dinner tomorrow, miss you." It wasn't meant for her. It never was. But instead of breaking down or confronting him immediately, Zara did something unexpected. She stayed calm. She knew about the other woman. That part, strangely, didn't shake her as much as she thought it would. Affairs were messy, emotional, and sadly common. What bothered her more was the feeling that something else was off, something she couldn't yet explain. So instead of reacting, she started observing, quietly, patiently. She watched his routines, his behavior, the timing of his absences. Days passed and patterns started forming, but they didn't point where she expected. Ayan wasn't spending extravagantly on someone else. There were no luxury gifts, no expensive hotel bills, no obvious signs of financial indulgence. In fact, if anything, money seemed to be disappearing in a different way. That's when Zara's instincts sharpened. She decided to dig deeper, not into his messages this time, but into something far more revealing: their finances. Late one night, while the city outside buzzed with life, Zara sat with her laptop, carefully going through records, statements, and digital trails. What she found made her heart sink, but not in the way heartbreak usually does. There was a hidden account. Large sums of money had been transferred into it over months, not small amounts, but significant, calculated deposits. It wasn't random, it was intentional. At that moment, everything shifted. The other woman became almost irrelevant. This wasn't just about love or betrayal anymore. This was about secrecy, control, and something much bigger than an affair. Zara realized that she wasn't being replaced, she was being excluded. And exclusion, she understood, could be far more dangerous than infidelity. Instead of panicking, Zara became focused. She gathered information, documented everything, and even consulted a legal advisor without Ayan knowing. Piece by piece, she built clarity around the situation. The hidden account wasn't just savings, it was a backup plan. Ayan had been quietly preparing for a life where Zara didn't exist, securing finances in a way that left her vulnerable. That realization didn't break her, it transformed her. The woman who once might have cried over messages was now analyzing strategies, protecting herself, and thinking steps ahead. She stopped seeing herself as a victim of betrayal and started seeing herself as someone being underestimated, and that gave her power. The night she finally confronted Ayan, the city lights reflected through the windows of their apartment, casting long shadows across the room. Zara stood calm, composed, and completely in control of her emotions. Ayan, expecting an emotional confrontation about the other woman, was unprepared for what came next. "I know about her," Zara said quietly. He froze, guilt flashing across his face, but before he could speak, she continued. "But I care more about the account." The silence that followed was heavier than any argument. In that moment, the truth wasn't just exposed, it was stripped down to its core. This had never been just about love or attraction. It was about control, about having an exit strategy, about quietly securing power while maintaining a facade. Ayan tried to explain, to justify, to soften the reality of what he had done. But Zara had already moved past that stage. She wasn't there for explanations. She was there with knowledge, preparation, and decisions already made. What he didn't know was that Zara had already taken legal steps to protect herself. The evidence was documented, the risks were minimized, and the future he had been secretly planning no longer belonged to him alone. That night, Zara didn't scream, she didn't cry, she didn't beg. She simply chose herself. Walking away from that relationship wasn't about losing a husband. It was about removing a risk. It was about recognizing that betrayal isn't always loud or obvious. Sometimes it hides in silence, in numbers, in decisions made behind closed doors. As the sun rose over the city the next morning, Zara stood by the window, looking out at the same skyline, but with a completely different perspective. She hadn't just survived betrayal, she had redefined it. Because in the end, the biggest lesson wasn't about the other woman at all. It was about awareness, about knowing your worth, about understanding that sometimes the most dangerous secrets aren't who someone loves, but what they hide.